Back at it once again. Yahweh. One of the most enduring and moronic questions that I get on this channel is, lol, shill, how much does the CCP pay you? Take a look around any YouTube video that shares anything about China, and you are likely to find some variant of the China shill comment. Today we will examine this totally not disingenuous question with far more credulity than it deserves. I've been putting videos from China, but not really about China, on this channel since 2015. And since pretty much day one, I've been accused of being paid by the CCP. Besides YouTube, I also have Chinese TikTok, Douyin, which I very seldomly post on, but when I was active I had around 20,000 subscribers, and I also have a small Bilibili account with about 3,000 subscribers. These are my biggest platforms, and the only platforms in which I've been directly asked to create content for and place content on. I've also used other platforms, Instagram, Threads, Xiaohongshu, Weibo, but I've never been asked to create content for any of these platforms. If you, dear viewer, are on the more clever end of the spectrum, and let's face it, if you're watching this video and commenting, you're probably not, then you may have just noticed that I did imply that I've been paid to create content for a variety of platforms. Pause the video here if you like your confirmation bias rare. You were correct about me, you nailed it, good job. Okay. Now that the biggest morons amongst us have left, we can get down to the nitty gritty. I'm going to tell you in this video exactly how China shills actually work. Which creators are getting paid for what kinds of content, and by who? Whom? I don't know, my English is not very good. Now I don't want to get ahead of myself, I don't want to spoil anyone here, but I can assure you that it's not Hu Jintao giving thick hongbao under the table while we're downing shots of Mao Tai. It's not so nefarious, it's not so seedy, it's just a little bit more mundane than that. First, let's take a look at the most common way that I've been approached to create content in China and what kind of content they wanted me to make. From this, we can extrapolate a little bit about what other content creators may be getting paid to create what kinds of content on YouTube and other platforms. Just like the United States or any other country on this earth, there are vultures, rent seekers, agents, and middlemen who want to offer you some kind of service in exchange for some nebulous potential gain. In social media parlance, you may know them as multi-channel networks, or MCNs. You may have also heard of influencer networks, or just your bog standard multimedia company. MCNs are just what they sound like. They are networks or agencies who control multiple channels. They help to manage or to support these channels and the influencers who are the faces of these channels. Some MCNs are like tiny little idol factories. They will develop and foster their own talent and essentially own everything about the channels that those creators post on, from their names to their titles to scripts to editing and subtitles to their very persona. Basically everything. Other times they find already established, perhaps smaller independent creators and try to onboard them to their platform. They offer them things like increased traffic, mentorship, better access to brand deals, and more. None of this is unique to China, and none of this is micromanaged by the CCP. Now, seeing as I'm a super young, handsome, charismatic, white guy who speaks okay Chinese, of course I've been approached by quite a few MCNs in my time. I've always turned them down for various reasons. I wish, for the purposes of this video, that I had all of the correspondence that I've ever had with MCNs, but you know, I've been creating videos for like 10 years, a lot of it's gone, lost to time, WeChat conversations and contacts deleted, emails are gone, I can't find. But I do have some. You'll have to take my word for it on some of this stuff that I'm saying, but again, I do have a little bit of proof and correspondence from some MCNs, so just believe me when I tell you most of them operate in very similar ways. Let's take a look at an email pitch that I received in early 2024. Revenue share, a generous revenue share exclusively for you. By generous, they do mean 70-30 in favor of them, minus their expenses. Zero worries. Online brand collaboration or sponsorship will be taken and conducted through Bilibili and Douyin, guaranteeing fairness, transparency, and minimizing any potential risks. Additional benefits. A range of services including specialized 1v1 service team, exclusive localized content service, event planning, account monetization, localization, post-production tasks, etc. As I said, most of them are very similar. So again, with the MCN that I'm referencing right now, they start at 70-30 in terms of revenue split for the first $27,000 per month earned on Chinese social network platforms. However, after that, the split becomes 40-60 and then 50-50, steps up in basis once you earn higher amounts of money. Now they also want money earned through foreign platforms, so right now you're watching this on YouTube presumably. Any money I earn on YouTube through sponsorships, they would also get a cut. In terms of YouTube, it would be 30% for them and 70% for me. Now they wouldn't get any of the AdSense revenue that I get just from posting on YouTube, so none of that's for them. Purely sponsorships. Now for any money earned on Chinese platforms, it's all based on data provided by the MCN. They own the channels in their network, they control the channels. This means that they typically post the content, they reply to the comments, etc., etc. Of course, I can ask to see the data, I can be more involved if I want, but ultimately I would really have to trust them and what they say in terms of how the platforms are operating and how much money we're earning. I also have to trust them when they say what their expenses are. So While they say it's a 70-30 split, you know, they could say anything really about how much it costs for them to actually buy traffic for me and things like that, which they all do. Now, I asked one of the MCNs that has reached out to me if they can provide me with any names of their clients, any channels that they've supported or onboarded. And they told me that the Hutchinson family is one of their clients. Now, if you haven't seen the Hutchinson family, they're a white family who first came to China, I believe, earlier this year in 2024, and they made some videos about how China shocked them. And then all of a sudden they were having videos that were fully subtitled, thumbnails in Chinese, all on the Chinese platforms, pretty much right away, and they really blew up, took off in popularity. And their China-based videos are all wildly popular on Chinese domestic platforms and on YouTube. Their other videos, less popular. Their fan base is almost entirely Chinese from what I can tell, or overseas Chinese. I haven't watched all their videos, but since their first time in China, it didn't appear that they were planning on spending months and months and months of this year in China. But since that time, they've been back and forth to China at least multiple times and pretty much traveled extensively throughout the country. It's very clear that they have the backing of somebody who's helping them. And that's not a bad thing. And I'm not saying this to like denigrate the family or anything. They're obviously being very successful, and it's probably because of this MCN in terms of their success in China. I'm also not accusing them of being paid China shills or stooges for the CCP or anything like that. I'm just saying that the MCN told me that they were their client. They probably shouldn't have, but they did. And so they're making travel content in China. That's all I'm saying. I did reach out to the Hutchinson family. I emailed them, asked them for comment, and had some questions for them, but I have not received any reply, so I cannot confirm whether what the MCN told me is true or not. So why did I never sign up for an MCN? You may be asking yourself. If I could quite easily become famous in China, make a lot of money in China, travel extensively on somebody else's dime, wouldn't that be great? Well, it probably won't shock you to learn that the MCNs give you a lot of, let's just say, suggestions on what you should or shouldn't say, what kind of content you should make, topics you should cover. I asked every MCN that approached me over the past decade about editorial control. Generally speaking, they said I could create anything I wanted, of course, as long as it complies with Chinese standards and laws and regulations, but they also strongly encouraged me to create videos on specific types of topics. I always ask, can you give me examples of what you guys want to see? Now, MCNs, you know, when you're in discussions, they're usually happy to provide this kind of information. They sent me a link to a Fox News article about the homeless and fentanyl crisis in Oakland, California. And I quote, "Can you tell me why this city is like this? For example, why is fentanyl flooding? Which group has benefited from fentanyl flooding?" Unquote. I assure you that they did not want me to say that China is one of the main beneficiaries of fentanyl flooding into America, whether it's through destabilization of America or through selling drug precursors to the cartels in Mexico who then import them into Mexico. I wouldn't have been able to say that, even if that's true, which I'm no expert on the topic, but that's how I understand it to be. Of course, what they would have expected me to say is that China is great, China is safe, there's no homeless problem, yada, yada, yada. Same that you've seen on a million other videos on YouTube already. Like I said, there's many videos on this kind of topic on YouTube already. And I can't say for certain that each and every one of these influencers or content creators is associated with an MCN and they are directing them on what to say. For some of them, they might not have an MCN. They see the trends online and they say, oh, I can probably generate some traffic for my channel by just making a really easy video about how awful America is and how awesome China is. That always generates traffic. Now, in my opinion, these videos are typically quite immoral, quite disgusting. They tend to demonize homeless people and people who have addiction problems. I don't really think that's the type of content that I want to make. So therefore, I don't make it, whether it's trending or not, whether I'm being directed to make it by an MCN or whether I want to do it on my own. I personally choose not to make this kind of video. I don't think that they add any value to the platform or to society for that matter, so I just don't do it. Any money that I could make making content like that is not worth, basically selling my soul. For as crappy and boring as my channel often is, at least for the most part, I have original content, I think. I don't make the same types of videos other people make all the time. I try to just do my own thing, what interests me, and demonizing homeless people doesn't interest me. However, if you ever see those kind of videos on this channel, know that I'm being paid vast sums of money. Another example real quick that I don't have any evidence of anymore is that a few years back an MCN reached out to me and they were going through my platforms and my video history and they basically screenshotted every single video that I ever made and then they sent them all back to me on WeChat and they put a red X through every video that they wanted me to delete. So again, with regards to editorial control, you don't really necessarily have it. You're kind of at the mercy of the MCN and what they want. they control your channel. So besides all of the nonsense topics that they would have wanted me to shill, essentially, and the monetary split that's really heavily in their favor, the rest of the terms are also heavily stacked in favor of the MCN. For example, the recent one, they asked me to make 6 long-form videos every single month. If, for whatever reason, I failed to hold up my end of the bargain, the contract, they could take the channels from me, they could take the revenue split for that month. Pretty much if I ever breached the contract, I would be screwed. Also, at the end of the 3-year contract, if I would have done everything perfectly, channel blows up, makes a lot of money, if I want to end the contract with the MCN and go off on my own, really I can't do that. Essentially, they have like the right of first refusal or whatever. We could negotiate terms of a buyout, but I would be buying my own content, my own channel at, they said, at market rate, which is probably going to be, for a very successful channel that's making a lot of money, it's going to be, you know, many multiples of the number that you're making annually. So not worth it in my opinion. Now, with all of that being said, if I ever did sign up for an MCN, or for anybody who has signed up for an MCN, are they a paid mouthpiece of the CCP? Some might argue yes, if not explicitly, perhaps implicitly, because each and every company that's operating in China, again, just like every other country in the world, not just China, they have explicit permission to operate in that country by way of their business license and through compliance with that country's local laws and regulations. So if you're hired by an American multi-channel network and you're given topics about how horrifying China is, for example, you can argue that you're a paid mouthpiece of the American government or the CIA or whatever else. You see comments like that on some channels like Serpent ZA, paid by the CIA. As far as Chinese media companies go, they are highly regulated. As a creator, you may not always be getting topics directly from the MCN, but you are unable to speak freely on any topic that you want while working for an MCN in China. Again, same in America. You can't put any topic you want on YouTube. You could be banned, you could be blocked. That's just how it goes. Now, any creator in China, whether or not they work for an MCN, I think they're pretty well aware of topics they can and can't talk about in China. I'm personally not making political content. I'm not trying to start a revolution in China, nothing like that. But even I have to sometimes be mindful of what I say, what words I use. That's just the nature of doing business anywhere. You have to follow the local laws and regulations and requirements on speech. It's just normal. So while I personally have total editorial control of my channel, I am careful of what I say at times. I don't speak on everything I want to talk about while I'm making content for China. And I think the same goes for people who have an MCN. The only difference is they're also given topics to create videos on, and they're also perhaps maybe like curate the brand to appear a certain way. I don't want to be a brand, so I can just make whatever I want. I'm lucky in that regard. So that's MCNs. Sorry that was a little bit long. Let's move on to other ways to get paid by the CCP. So I worked with Chinese state media one time. They sent me to Hainan, a province in southern China, with a reporter and some cameramen from the state TV network. We got to test out the high-speed rail, eat some food, do some traveling, make some content. I wasn't paid for this video. However, all of my expenses were paid. My flight, my trains, my food, my taxis, everything else was paid. The video that I made was not put on my channel. It was put on the official state media YouTube channel. I didn't have any editorial control. We're making a documentary about taking the train and eating food and traveling there. But the topics and the themes and everything that I'm supposed to say is basically fed to me, and I just say it in my own words. You know, you're filming a show. It's TV. You can often see foreigners work with this network on YouTube, and I would assume that some of the bigger creators are paid, but I have no proof one way or the other. In this case, I think that you can say that I was neither paid nor unpaid by the CCP, as I was given this opportunity by official state media, yes, but I was not given any actual cash money. The final case study that I have for you today is the time that I was sent to Guizhou province as a tourism ambassador. There was a group of foreign content creators, I think it was about 15 or 20 of us, and we were all sent to Guizhou province, and we were asked to make 1 to 2 minute videos, I think 1 minute videos for Douyin, Chinese TikTok. This trip was organized by a travel company. The content creators were contacted by agents, but the trip was officially sponsored by the province of Guizhou. The purpose was to promote tourism in Guizhou province. I was paid, I believe, 2,500 RMB for 3 1-minute videos to post on Douyin. In this case, you could say that I was paid by the CCP in some capacity, as they were a sponsor of this trip. Not the central government, mind you, but provincial government. However, they didn't tell me at all what to say for this trip. We know that we're here to go see a cave. We gotta say, oh, this cave is cool. They took us to see the ginkgo trees that were beautiful yellow color in the fall. I think it was the fall. The trip was called Duocai Guizhou, colorful Guizhou. We were promoting tourism. They didn't say, you're not allowed to say this or you have to say that, but come on. We know what to say. As far as I know, none of us were telling lies. The trip was cool. I did get to see a cave. I said, oh, this is a really cool cave. Oh, these are really cool trees. So I wasn't lying or shilling for the government, in my opinion. I was just saying how cool this place was, and I was paid for it. Now, your opinion on any of these 3 categories if any of them are actual paid shilling of the CCP. I'm of the opinion that none of this is shilling for the Chinese government, although some examples may be closer than others. I believe that all of these examples are very typical, very normal ways that MCNs or TV networks or state and local governments work everywhere on earth. They want to get their message across, they want to promote tourism, they want to drive traffic to their pages. This is all very, very normal. If you take the opportunity, for example, to travel to Yosemite, the trip is sponsored by the state of California. If you say how great Yosemite is, you are not explicitly approving their complicity in whatever atrocity the US federal government is committing this week. That's not how things work. That would be ridiculous. For most content creators, the ones who are making the videos that are like, shocked by China, this is my first time in China, you won't believe what happened in China. These ones are not backed by any China-based MCN. They're not paid by the government, as far as I can tell. What these people are doing is just hopping on whatever is the current trend. They see massive viewership numbers in these vlogs that are frankly very little effort. People do no research. They just show up in China and say, oh my God, they're spending yen. There's cameras everywhere. There's EVs everywhere. And they get some tons of views. It's simply a formula. Most of these people are extremely lazy and unoriginal. They know they don't need to know anything about China before they come. They know that the local Chinese are going to help them if they struggle. And they know that it'll be good content that drives engagement if they say, look at all the CCTV cameras everywhere. Or if they say, shay shay. Or if they say, oh, look how quiet and clean the streets are. They're almost certainly not paid by the Chinese government, because why would they need to pay them for this? The content creators, while they're unoriginal, they're not entirely dumb. For the creators that do live in China though and create lots of content in China, if they can't speak a word of Chinese, they can't read Chinese, they don't really clearly know anything about Chinese, and yet they have really, really strong followings on Chinese social media, on Bilibili, with high quality thumbnails, with Chinese subtitles that are accurate, these people almost certainly have an MCN that's doing some sort of support for them, most likely giving them topic ideas and post-production and, frankly, buying traffic. In conclusion, I don't think that the content that I'm sharing with you in this video will come as a major surprise or a shock to anyone with even a semi-functioning brain. And I do believe that the people who make the same dumb China shill, how much does the CCP pay you comments, are not gonna watch this video, and they're definitely not gonna watch it to the end, and they're just gonna say, see, I told you so, you are a China shill. These comments are never going to go away. Dumb people aren't really about self-reflection and personal growth. It's much easier to simply leave a stupid comment. What that means is that I'm most likely speaking to the wind here. But I do hope that some people did maybe learn a little bit of something from this about how the Chinese social media landscape does work. And again, it's the same everywhere from what I've seen. It's just where you are, who's doing it, who's paying you, who's giving you the ideas, what the topics are about. I think most people making content in China, as long as they're not working for official state media, they're not being paid directly to shill for the Chinese government by the CCP, as the comments will lead you to believe. I do, however, believe that they are fully cognizant of what they can and cannot say in China and the kind of topics that will give them lots of traffic. And so they do follow those talking points, whether or not they're paid by an agency, an MCN, state media, or just a trip like I did by provincial government, whatever the case may be. There is literally no reason to pay people for this content, because making this content pays for itself. So thank you for watching, and please leave a comment. Let me know once and for all if you truly believe that I am a paid shill working directly for the CCP. If I am, well, I haven't really seen the fruits of my labor happen just yet. And if I'm not, hey, I'm shilling for free apparently. I don't know what's worse. 再见.